Welcome, everyone. My name is Mary Ann Rasmussen. I lead the training team in the Center for Organizational and Workforce Effectiveness. And it's my pleasure to moderate the Ask the Experts panel today at the NOW conference, Next Opportunity at Work conference. So we're very pleased to be right here at University of California, Berkeley for this conference. And in a moment, we are going to give you an opportunity to ask anything you ever wanted to know from this panel of experts about your career development, how to find that next job, how to do the networking, how to use that social media effectively, how to not put your foot in it when it's really important you don't put your foot in it, right? So as just a matter of format, you've got index cards, right, on your seats. So as you think of a question, please write your question down and pass them up to me. And I will read your question to the panel. And please write down who you would like to ask the question of. And it might be more obvious after they introduce themselves. If you have a question now and you're just not sure, feel free to pass it forward and we'll figure it out. All right? And we're doing it this way because of the microphone situation. So I hope that this works for you. And we have a volunteer in the room. Where'd Pam go? There she is. And Pam will be glad to collect your questions and bring them up. All right, and I've got a few to start with too. Okay, so with that, we've got one already. I love it, thank you. So with that, I would like to ask the panel members to just go down the row and introduce yourselves. Say just a few minutes of information about who you are. Starting here, Jim, who you are and what you do, and you need that microphone. So,
I really do.
Yep.
My name is Jim Callenber. I am a recruiter. I recruit recruiters, I train recruiters, but mostly I'm a recruiter. And I recruit professionals for a major global corporation, and I happen to know Mr. Matos.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vanessa George, and I am a leadership and career development consultant. I have worked with UC and University of California, UCSF, UC Berkeley, UC Office of the President, so I have been with UC for quite some time. Currently, I am actually just started a new role working at University of San Francisco, where I am the Associate Director in the School of Management in Graduate Career Services. So I am working with all of our graduate level management students and helping them develop strategies in order to be able to graduate and find terrific jobs where they can go out and be successful. And I love this work. I love coaching, I love doing workshops, and I'm thrilled to be here today.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and fellow panelists. My name is Bruce Matos. I'm the Director of Talent Acquisition and Employment Services for UC Berkeley. But as Jim stated, first and foremost, I recruit. That's my sole mission in life. I've been recruiting for over 17 years, and professionally, but even in college, I was recruiting fellow athletes to come to the university that I was at. I find a passion in bringing the right talent to this organization and others, and hopefully I can answer some of your questions about things and trends here in the university system and anything else related to employment.
I don't know if it's morning or afternoon. Someone say, good morning. My name is Tamara Steele. My background is actually that of a practicing attorney for a number of years. And then I did a career change and decided that I wanted to pursue coaching. And so I got certified to do executive and life coaching. I was very much inspired about changing people's lives so that they would do what they really wanted to do in life. And having worked in a legal environment for so many years in a very toxic environments, I thought that I would be really good at working with people and helping them discover what they really want this lifetime. So that's what I do. I go into companies and I work with individuals. I also do one-on-one work, but the majority of my work are with groups in terms of workshops. I recently started a group called the Global Women Coaching Connection. So I work with a lot of different women from different walks of life, different professions, and helping them really achieve personally and professionally.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Daniel Siddiqui. If you guys stick around, I will be keynoting at 4 o'clock, so you can hear more about my journey of working in every state. So I guess I'm a crazy journeyman. So I've parlayed my experience of working in every state into a curriculum for colleges, and now I'm opening up to young adults and high school students, where they can get exposure to different jobs in the real world to help them understand where they fit better into different environments and industries, and then take that and learn from the classroom, be more engaged. So that's what I'm doing now. So.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Donna Salvo, and I am the Executive Director of Talent Management and Staff Development system-wide for the university. So I work out of the Office of the President. It is a pretty new position, about 4 or 5 months old, in conception for the university. I've been here for 2 years, have about 30 years in human resources, mostly private industry. This is my first time in higher ed, so a lot of learning. But working on what you have in front of you is the talent management continuum for the university, what that looks like. And it really starts with how we attract and acquire talent within the university, what we do with that talent once it comes into the university, how we integrate you, how we help develop you, how we set different types of training programs and opportunities, make them available for you within the university, and our ultimate goal is how we retain you. So it's that continuum. So I get involved in the hiring aspects. I work with Bruce and all of the employment groups across the university, work with our learning and development groups across the university, and try to instill system-wide programs that can benefit everyone for your careers at the university, whether it's staff, and we do some faculty also training with academics, the academic side of the house. So that's a new role, and welcome. So I'm sure you're going to have lots of questions for us today. Thank you very much.
And we do. First question, right out of the gate. I'm looking at this, and I think several of you will have a point of view on this question. So I'll read the question, and whoever hits their buzzer first can answer first. How can a person with specific technical skills like project management find a career or a career path here at University of California, Berkeley, if a career may not exist? All right, and Bruce.
I think one of the things, it's a great question, and a lot of people find themselves, what they feel they're in a trap. They're in a position that they've been in for the past maybe 10, 15 years, and they can't make a change, they can't get out of it. Your skills are maybe antiquated, and there's things that you just feel that you haven't been able to make a change. And I think some of the things that you have to look at here at the university is we offer Unix classes. There are some workshops. There's classes that are offered that you can take to better your skills. You could also, one of the things I like to have people do is I call it, it's a type of interviewing where you're going out, it's informational interviewing. You're going out and you're finding the next job for you. And it's a part of your greater network. You're going to be reaching out to other people on campus, other departments, finding out what they do, and learning on what's out there on the campus. And you're sitting there looking at your repository of skills, and you start to gear yourself towards doing that. I guess if you say that you never can get out of project management, then I probably never would have been able to come to work here at Berkeley, because I had 8 years of healthcare experience. I didn't have higher ed. I have higher education, but I never worked in higher ed. So I think it starts with what direction you want to go, and that magical lamp can't be handed to you, or it's going to appear and someone's going to reach out to you. Mary Ann's going to come to you and say, hey, I want you to come work for me. You've got to go out and find some of the different things. You've got to ask people, some of your friends on campus, some of your colleagues on campus, broaden your network via LinkedIn and some other things, join some of the associations we have on campus, then start to look at some of the skills that maybe some of those positions require, and kind of change your journey a little bit, open yourself up to new paths. There are some certifications, some workshops, some classes that you might need, but you've got to go out and find what that is and talk to people in those areas. So that would be my first thing.
So one take is make that transition into something a little different from what you're thinking of right now. Is there another point of view?
Well, it's not just, I would look beyond the campus at Berkeley. I would look at the entire UC system as an opportunity for you. So we have a newly designed, about a year-old system-wide job board. Go out to the job board, take a look at what opportunities are out there, and you can find out who the managers are that have those openings or the departments. And as Bruce said, make some time to have informational interviews. I get calls every day from people across the university that are just interested to talk about different openings and how they can find out more information about that position. And what we try to do is connect those people with those hiring managers to have those informational interviews. Bruce mentioned LinkedIn. Absolutely, 100%. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile today, you need to create a LinkedIn profile. It is the number one networking place to go to. Aside from that, there are probably alumni groups that you can talk to, people who have been at the university, that have been in those jobs that you may aspire to change to. So they love to be networked with and talked to, and that's a perfect opportunity for you to begin that sort of career change that you might have, or actually investigation into what that may look like for you.
All right. And any other advice if he really wants to stay here and stay a project manager? Any other advice?
Well, in the project management world, technology, processes of project management, it stays the same. Many of the things that you do, when you look at roadmaps, there might be a new certification. You get your PMP, you go on, you can get your Six Sigma. You can look at those things. So first of all, taking a look at those different types of certifications and designations to stay current with the trends. Really, I would say if you want to stay in your field, then become the subject matter expert. You have a great venue here at Berkeley to do white papers, to do case studies. You can get published and put it out there and share and exchange that. See what other campuses, what our other people in your roles are doing at our other campuses. Reach out to colleagues at the dreaded Big Red across the bay. Find out what other people are doing with this expertise that you have, and expand your skills. If you want to stay here at Berkeley and a project manager, you have to become an expert.
Good.
The days of being a generalist are good, but you need to aspire to be great.
Good advice. I have a question for Tamara. Yes. As a worker with about 10 to 15 years of career left, how can I discover what I really, really underlined, am passionate about? What is the first step to ending my career at Berkeley, doing meaningful work that I love? Great
question, and I must say that I often find people who come to me specifically in that position. They've worked for a number of years and they've had a lot of achievements. However, they're at a point where something is still missing and they wonder, is there something more? And we just start what I call a deep exploration process, where I'm asking deep inquiry questions to get them to delve deeper into what do you really want? Because oftentimes when you first start talking to someone, they tell you kind of the surface stuff, right? But once you start delving deeper into conversation with someone through the coaching, you find out that, you know what, there's something more to this individual. There's something more that they want. You start peeling back the layers of different things that they've experienced in their life, and then you start exploring, well, what does it look like if you were, say, to venture in this direction? And getting them to think outside of what they're accustomed to, outside of the box, outside of their comfort zone. And so during that process, I find that people are able to get some more clarity about what direction they want to go in. Give you an example, one lady I was coaching, she was a trial attorney for a number of years for Caltran, and 18 years to be exact. And she was at a point where she was like, well, I really got to do something different. This is not really working for me. Well, financially it was working for her, but in terms of fulfillment, it was not working for her. So we have to really be clear about that, because you can have a lot of achievements, but if you're not fulfilled, you won't feel like you're successful. Right. And so in that process, that deep inquiry process we went through, she really found out, what? I hate litigation. She never verbalized it. She just did it, and she was good at it. And so sometimes when you're good at something, you just keep doing it because you're good at it. But that doesn't mean that you like it and that it really serves you. And so anyway, make a long story short, she started looking, she said, I want to do something more transactional. And anyway, in her exploration process, she ended up landing an administrative law position, which allowed her to work 4 days a week in a less adversarial position, right, and allowed her to have more time with her children. So it's just an example.
Happy ending. I have a follow-up question for Vanessa on this. So how would using your network, building a network, help support redirecting yourself into a new field that you have more passion for?
It's funny, I've actually done that several times. I didn't mention earlier, but I started out in the chapter 1, or I guess, of my life as working in corporate marketing. So I worked in high tech, doing all kinds of marketing, and I woke up one day and decided I wanted to work in nonprofit. And so, similarly, I was doing work. It was okay, but I felt there had to be something more. I felt I needed to be doing something where I was making a larger contribution. So I really wanted to work with women and empower women. But I thought, how do I get there? So what I realized is I had really good marketing skills. So I thought, let me leverage that in an area that is interesting to me, and I was really interested in nonprofits. So I began doing volunteer work to get to know people in the nonprofit sector, because I had no network there whatsoever. So I just started simply with reaching out to a colleague who was a fellow alum who was of my high school, who was setting up a museum. And I called her one day and said, I heard, you were talking, and you were talking about building this museum. I'd love to just volunteer. And using my marketing skills, because that's what I knew. So I started that way, worked on some committees, and then when the dot-com bomb thing happened in 2001,
yeah.
I called her up and I said, I'm now footloose and fancy-free. And I really want to learn even more about the nonprofit industry with the goal of going in and working in nonprofit. And I know that you have set up this development office for the museum. Can I come and volunteer several days a week? I will do anything, because I had the time. I was in between jobs. I was in transition, and I wanted to figure out if this would be the right role for me or the right industry for me. I volunteered. And so that became the building block for me to deepen my knowledge of the nonprofit industry and leverage the existing skills I already had. So I didn't try to do a huge switch, right? This is really important. You can do incremental changes in your career by venturing into new industries using the same skills. It's easier to get in the door. Once you get in the door, then you can begin to expand. Ultimately, I began pursuing this work I do now, leadership and career development, also through volunteering. Went in and doing marketing, ventured over into doing program development, and learned a lot about leadership and career development. And so now, that's a strategy I recommend to everyone. Leverage volunteering, reaching out, doing informational interviews to see whether or not that's, whatever your industry is, if that's the right path for you.
That's great. And now I want to ask Jim a follow-up question to that. Once you have identified, I want to be a nonprofit, I like this museum, whatever it is, whatever the organization, function, type of group, whatever, how do you get to that recruiter, and what do you put in front of them to be effective? How do you land it?
We were just talking about this. You turn yourself into I don't know if anybody fishes out here, you turn yourself into a piece of power bait so that you are highly visible on the internet. You do a lot of things that I know Bruce does every single day, and Don mentioned LinkedIn. You make yourself visible on the internet. Come to the afternoon session, and I'll get a little bit more deeply into it. But there are very, very clear strategies. Recruiters like me tend to behave in the same way, and we tend to look for people in the same ways. And get yourself visible on the web, but before you get yourself visible, make sure that that little thing that you're making visible is appropriate. And I don't know which of us are doing the resume writing. Is that the...
The what?
Right back there.
Oh, hi, there she is. Make
Resume
sure
writing.
you go to her session so what you make visible is appropriate. Because I got to tell you, recruiters are out there hunting and fishing every single day for people. We look under rocks for people. So the key is to make yourself visible. I mean, I could go on for hours, but I don't think I will.
So now I've got a question for Daniel. How do you deal with rejection if it doesn't happen the first time?
Well, I guess I'm an expert in that. You'll find out on but anyways, dealing with rejection, wow. It's definitely hard for anybody. I've become numb to it after years of it. The thing is not to take it personal. Even though it may be personal, but to deflect it and protect yourself, don't take it personally, but figure out ways that you can better yourself and what mistakes you've made to get that rejection. But the way I look at it and the way I've carried on through the endless amount of rejections I still face today is you're always one step closer to an acceptance. And that's kind of the mindset you have, because the more people you reach, the more opportunities you're putting yourself out there. So, yeah. Anyone else?
Wow. Anyone want to follow up on that?
Okay. I was just going to say that oftentimes I know I tell myself when I get a rejection, I always say thank you, because what that's saying is that perhaps I'm not ready for whatever it is that I was actually pursuing, and it puts me in a space to reflect on what is it that I need to better in myself so that the next time around I'll get that yes. So it's a time just to really better myself, because life is nothing but a journey of working on improving yourself. And when you look at it from that perspective, it's not something that puts you down. It's like, okay, let me just really assess where I'm at. Because think about it, if you didn't get that rejection and you got that position and you weren't prepared for it, you setting yourself up for failure. You want to be accepted because you're at the top of your game. You're ready for it. And so it's just a sign saying, okay, maybe there's some other things that I need to take a look at.
Well, I think there's a common theme, and I'll give it from an employer's perspective. We're going to get 150 resumes for an IT position if we post it here on campus, at least 150 resumes. And I guess my team of recruiters, we have the nasty job of having to follow up with 149 people. If we're smart recruiters, we're reaching out to those 149 people saying, hey, thank you for applying. Is there something else that you might be interested in? We have some other opportunities here. Take that opportunity, even if you got the impersonal email from the black box, try to reach out to somebody, and don't ask, why didn't I get the position? Don't ask, what could I do better? Get some dialogue going. Why do you enjoy your job working there? What can you tell me more about your company? Turn it around. It is a step towards getting there, and I think you got to exude a certain confidence. We're in a different time from when my parents brought me into this world, where you were a football coach and you carried on to the next job. My mom worked at the same school for 30 years. It's a different world where our markets are changing. You have to become an expert, but you also have to be prepared for a little bit of that rejection. Life's not handed to you anymore. It's not a silver platter. And so you have to put that extra effort into it. And you'll hear from Daniel, it's this, 50 jobs, 50 states. It comes down to persistence. You really have to put yourself out there. But I think you get that one no, all right, that's one no. Just turn around. For me, a no means it's on. It's game on. I'm going for the next step. And I think you wouldn't. I guess I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I live with 4 women. I wouldn't have been put in that situation if I didn't take that opportunity from rejection, because she told me no numerous times.
Yeah, sometimes it's just you just don't get your break. It's fate plays a big part in the process. For instance, my story is I failed 40 job interviews out of college looking for anything relevant to my economics degree. But now I look back on it, 5 years from today, and I think that was the best thing that's ever happened to me, to be rejected by all those employers, because now I'm doing what I love, and I would never have discovered that. So sometimes you just got to look on the right side of things, like this is happening for a reason, and that's kind of another point.
So I'll take it from just a little bit of another perspective. I completely agree with what the panel's comments are. In addition to that, what I've seen over the years, as organizations change and grow, and it may not be the ideal position or the fit for you at that time that you're interviewing, sell yourself, sell yourself, sell yourself. There's always another position, and they will remember who you are for those other positions as they become available. I cannot tell you how many people over the years that I have talked to that may have not been a fit for that particular position, but I remembered that I called back to say, we have another opportunity. I thought, regarding our conversation, that you had some great skills in this area. What do you think? And it's all about how you conduct yourself in that interview, how you sell yourself, how you present your openness to even learn while you're in those positions. And that's what I find is, I cannot tell you how many positions I've had over the years that I went into and thought I was going to be doing one job and ended up taking on significantly different opportunities as a result of selling myself. So it's more than not just rejecting you for that particular moment, it's also preparing you for the future.
Very true. All right, we're going to take a little bit of a turn. What advice would you give to a full-time Cal employee who plans to start a side business as an educational consultant? How do you juggle 2 jobs? How do you avoid burnout? Who would like to take a crack at that?
I know, really. So I seem to come from the school of multitasking. I have a current job at University of San Francisco. I have a side business as a leadership and career development consulting, doing things like this, and private coaching. I'm also in school, working on a doctorate. So when you talk about how do you juggle all of it, yeah, it can be rather crazy making. I think one of the key things I learned is it's easier to do it to manage it all if you try not to replicate your side gig. Let's call it a side gig. Try not to do as a side gig what you do every single day, because then you are tempted. It's very easy to get burnt out because you're doing something 8 hours a day, and then you're doing something after hours and on the weekends that's exactly the same thing. I've had that experience because I love it, right? Whatever it was in the past I was doing, I thought, oh, it'll be great. I'll just keep doing more of it. You actually can get burnt out if you're doing exactly the same thing as a side gig. Now, if you have a lot of energy and you're okay with it and you want to do the same thing on the side that you do during the day, then I think it's also about pacing yourself, recognizing what your limits are, and not taking on more than you can handle. So I think you really need to be mindful of what your limitations are, what your capacity is, and to be mindful about what you take on, because you have to also make time for yourself. You have to make time for your health, your friends, your family, whatever. So be mindful about how you juggle that. In terms of your work life versus your side life, it is very important not to let the two bleed, right? So you do need to make sure that you are committed to doing your work during the day. That's what you get paid for every day. And to not take advantage of that. Just to be really honest, it's very tempting to do your side gig during the day when you're supposed to be working. That can really backfire. So just as a point of caution, your nights and your weekends hopefully are your own. And to organize yourself, prioritize what you need to do for your side gig, and to be very deliberate about what you take on and what you don't. And in the end, you'll find that it is actually wonderful to have a diversity of things that you can be focused on.
Good. Has anyone else juggled two things tomorrow?
Actually, as Vanessa was talking, I was thinking about when I was practicing law full-time and then looking to transition into becoming a certified life coach and, do various trainings, et cetera. I started very gradual. And what I mean by that, I started first doing my research, looking to see who's out there, who are the major players, what are they doing, and just gradually started the process. I didn't allow that process to overtake what I was doing full time. I selected a school that I wanted to go to, but then I had to find a school that fit in with my current schedule. My job, my home, family, all of that. You don't want to, as Vanessa was saying, she used the word bleed, but you don't want it to basically cross the line to where it starts disrupting your current life. And so you gradually do things, and if it's meant for you to make that leap, as I call it, that transition, you'll know when it's time. But you gradually do it and make sure you keep boundaries of your time in terms of your job, in terms of your family, and not go overboard with it.
So we have.
One quick thought on it. We've talked about networking, and I think both Vanessa and Tamara said that you want to reach out to some of those experts. So as you're looking at doing that, going down that side path, network with people that are currently doing that. Get to know them via LinkedIn. Find out how they did their break-in, a little bit about how they juggled. Do some informational interviewing on those folks. Find out what it is that they do. Myself, I'm very involved with youth sports on my side piece. Now, I did intermix my side component because of my kids, but, I go I'm going to Hawaii this summer to referee soccer games for the National Cup. Because you went down that path, but to get there, you had to become an expert at it. You had to become very, very good at those things that you do. So it should be something that supplements what you want to do. It should be something that you're passionate about, but that balance, you can't let it conflict. But I think you need to network with people. You really need to network with the experts.
Yeah. So you talked about becoming an expert, and that brings to mind the word development. So, and we've had a lot of conversation about transitioning and, making that bridge from one piece of work, one type of work to another. Donna, let's get your opinion on development. What's out there, what's available, and what's your favorite kind, whatever you want to say on it.
Development is never ending, as we mentioned here. You should always be looking for how you can keep doing self-improvement or gaining more skills, more insight into the things that you're interested in. You own your career. There's no one else that owns that for you. There are others that can provide the resources and tools that we have, such as the training and development courses and classes, but there's other ways to develop yourself as well. We've mentioned networking. Networking is a very cool way to develop things within your repertoire of skills or knowledge, and it's a wonderful way to also understand what the roles you aspire to maybe move into look like by networking with people not at your peer level, not in the same jobs that you're doing today, but above that, if that's where you're planning to go. So there's different ways in development for your career. There's developing skills, there's developing leadership skills, management, if you want to move into management, or there's developing a whole new, different mindset, or we were talking about new opportunities, that something you don't do at all today. So there's all those kinds of opportunities. One of the things that the university offers to you is a multitude of ways of doing that, through extension courses, through your learning and development classes, through symposiums that are conducted, that you can gain some insight into. And I would just take advantage of as much as I possibly could to build my repertoire.
Great. Daniel, what's the most important thing you've learned in the last 5 years?
Well,
How'd you
development
learn?
about development.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as far as your personal growth, your
I feel
professional
like
growth.
I'm sure a lot of you guys like to travel, right? I feel like traveling is very stimulating, and you really put yourselves in new environments, and I feel like it's very thought-provoking. So I became a lot more creative, innovative as I was traveling. Ideas were shaping. And of course, meeting different types of people, so you get a new perspective and appreciation and stuff like that. So, yeah, development never ends, and it's all about making discoveries and finding where you're best fit. And you only could do that by taking risks, because a lot of us do tend to just settle in a job. You know, it's very tough out there. So a lot of us who land a job, we stay there as long as we can because it's comfortable. But you probably don't, as Tamara said, it's not fulfilling. So you got to take those risks and do something that's fulfilling or rewarding, because that's something that you want to wake up excited every morning, going to that position and filling that role. So, anyone else?
Yeah. Other comments on professional development?
I think it's been covered well.
All right. So this is another segue to a little different subject. A lot of talented people here at UC Berkeley have been laid off in the last few years. So how do you survive a layoff? How do you put that in perspective? And both from your perspective as thinking about career development and organizational development, how does the organization recover from that? And how does the individual recover from that?
And I'll use an example. There was a local organization here in Oakland, and they brought me in because they were downsizing. And I would say about 10 or 15 people were being laid off who had been working there for, say, 18 years plus. So one of the things that they wanted to do was to have me meet with the various workers and talk to them obviously about where they are and where they're going and what are some of the things that they can do to move forward to help them in this transition. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting during this whole process is that my ultimate goal was to get the individual to see that they're in control of their life first, and they can create whatever new story, new life that they want, new chapter, if you will, for their life. So even though that chapter was ending, you were closing that book, now it's time to start a new book. What do you want that to look like? And you are the person that designs that. And so to give you one example, one lady, through our whole process, decided that she wanted to go back to school, and she actually wanted to go into ministry. Well, fast forward, she did complete school, and now she is a full-time minister. Wow. But who would have thought that would have come out? Because I often think, well, if she wasn't laid off, would she have had, thought of really exploring it? Mm-hmm. And this was something, it turns out, through the whole coaching process, that she was passionate about it. So oftentimes, things that may look like as a negative, the layoff, what am I going to do? I've been here for 18 years. It may be like the blessing on the other side because it forces you to, let me really take a look at my life.
So when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Bruce.
One of the things, the IT industry is notorious for over the past 20 years for having layoffs, usually every 2 to 3 years. I was one of 10,000 people to get laid off from Agilent in 2001 on the tail end. And, to my wife, it was the end of the world. We've got 2 kids, we've got a mortgage. And I said, you're a teacher, we got your benefits. I'll go play golf for a while. No, but, I think that people are affected by it in different ways. When you look at it, I think Daniel made a great comment about rejection. A layoff is another form of rejection. It might not be personal. It could be personal. But you gotta take the steps and really start to look at it. Those people that have been affected here, for myself, we're trying to reach out to them because a lot of those people we may need to bring back for some of the projects that we have and some of the initiatives because they have UC experience. They have an understanding of it. I think for an organization, the organization really has to look to what's the next wave going to be? How are we going to prepare for our next set of hiring? Are we going to be able to integrate some of those people back? You're going to have layoffs. 5 years ago, the mortgage industry started having their huge hits. The banking industry does it all the time. And I think you look at those companies, they go hire your Lee Hecht Harrisons to go manage it for them. But on the end of it, there are people that are affected by it. And I think, it's just a different way of handling rejection. And I think some of our people, how many people in here have been laid off? Okay, that's almost half the room.
Should we hold up how many fingers for how many times we've been laid off?
I think Jim and I were at the same line on the way out the door. But you have to look at your development. You have to do your informational interview. Usually, you'll have a notification. If it's a public company, you got to get that Warren Act 60-day notice. But you've got to be prepared for it, and that's why they always say have your resume ready. Have a resume updated every 6 months. Be prepared for your next change. We're talking about changes in our world, and this job for me could end in 6 months. I'm not looking. I love it here, but it could happen. So you have to be prepared for that next component, and it can't be looked upon as a rejection. So the no it's an on.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually add to that.
Yeah, and I want to make sure Jim gets a chance to jump in here too.
Yeah. So a quick. I do. I forgot I wasn't wearing your. Quick point on that too. I encourage everyone to think of themselves, even if you're in a role and you've been in that role for quite some time and you feel comfortable, think of yourself as a free agent. Always be, as Bruce is saying, always realize that things can change tomorrow. And so while you are continuing to do a great job in your current job and you may be absolutely committed to it and love it, know that conditions can change that are beyond the control of your manager or your department, right? So if you continue to keep your skills up, if you continue to keep your network active and alive, you stay active on the internet, you keep your LinkedIn profile updated, if you have the opportunity to work on additional projects, you add that to your LinkedIn, depending on what it is, you will always be aware of new opportunities as they come up. And if something does happen and you do get a notice that your position is being eliminated, you're not going to be starting from scratch. I did work for Lee Hecht Harrison up until I just went to my new job, and I've worked with over 100 people literally in the last 6 months who are all in transition. And so often, and I do want to add this, and then I'll turn it over to Jim. The most challenging thing I encountered working at Lee Hecht Harrison was that so many employees or clients that I worked with didn't know anyone outside of their current employer. They had no network beyond their current employer. If I were to translate that to here, it would be equivalent to you only know people at Berkeley. You don't even know anybody else outside of Berkeley. Or in your own department. That is crucial because it means that if someone takes the rug out from under you, you're suddenly stuck. So make it a priority to get to know people outside your department, across the university, or perhaps, within the UC system.
All All right, here's a practical suggestion along those lines. Further to what Bruce said and further to what Vanessa said, go into LinkedIn and invite some recruiters. Just go and click on that blue, go do a search.
You really want to hear from us?
Recruiters. Recruiters love fat networks. Don't you get a bonus for the number of people in your network? Yeah. So I don't want to use the word insurance or hedge, but if you have a bunch of recruiters in your inbox popping up all the time while you're happily employed and making a lot of money and enjoying life, come these things about, hey, we have a job. Hey, we have a job. Hey, are you interested? Do you know anybody? Those pop up all the time while you're working. That's okay. You might know somebody. It doesn't matter. If you have recruiters in your network, it's a great hedge, and it's in addition to what Bruce and Vanessa said. Really makes your network much more powerful in case that thing happens.
Now, also being laid off is a process of humility as well. On my journey, I did meet a dentist who was actually laid off, believe it or not, in Kansas City. He heard about my story, and I was a Boilermaker, just welding in a coal-fired power plant. And he was inspired by it. He said, well, this guy's going out and doing all these different jobs. I have some background doing welding. And so he reinvented himself, and now he's actually still there 3 years later. And I always say, reinvent yourself, because he's actually enjoying what he's doing now. And he wasn't too good for the position, even though being from a dentist to a Boilermaker, completely opposites, right? So,
wow.
And then there's cases like when I just came back recently from Appalachia, where a whole town was shut down because the coal industry is being closed. Now half of the community was willing to reinvent themselves and find positions, 100 miles away from their town. And then there's other people who are, hey, this is what I've did. I don't know anything else. So now they're just living in poverty. So there's some people who are really stubborn, and then there's those that are really willing to go out and take those chances and go out of their comfort zone, because driving 2.5 hours each way just to do a $16 an hour job is not easy living. But that's what it takes. If the why is strong enough, the how becomes easy. So these people are willing to take those. So
I just have one more thing that Jim had touched on, and that is going out and looking at what is open, even if you're in a role today. I love my job, love it. This is my passion. I'm finally doing what I love to do. But over the years, I have continued to look at what are the openings in my field, in my industry. Every day I get a list of openings in the Bay Area. Every day I look at those. Every day I talk to someone who has been laid off somewhere that I have said, have you seen these openings? I try to help them. But it's also knowledge to me so that I can keep up with what's going on in my own industry, in what my profession is, so I know what kind of opportunities there are, just in the event the other shoe sometimes may drop. So I would someone once said to me, I said this to another group at the university, and they were like, oh no, we don't want people to know we're looking at other opportunities. It's a way to understand what's happening in your field, to know what's going on there. It's a way to network with people who have the openings, even if at the time you're not looking. It is truly, the times have changed to where that layoff stigma is a bad thing. It's happened to all of us at one time or another, and it's what we do to pick ourselves up to get back out there again.
Excellent. So, a hypothetical, is there such a thing as a perfect job? And if so, how would you know?
Next question.
Daniel, you picked up the mic. You want to give it a crack?
Yeah, sure, I'll go first.
And by the way, if there are any more questions, please send them on down to the end, and Pam, do you want to pick that up? Thank you.
Perfect job. I think there's jobs that are close to it. to being perfect, but there's always some kind of quirk to any position, I feel. I recently met Andrew McCarthy, movie star from the 80s. He's currently a travel a writer for National Geographic. And to anybody, it seems like a dream job, just going around traveling, getting paid, write about it, telling stories. And he told me that this is my dream job, but the problem is I don't like to travel. He fears traveling but the thing is, he makes those discoveries when he breaks through those barriers, that fear of flying. He has a fear of flying. He has a fear of being out of his comfort zone. But once he told me, once he made those discoveries that he wouldn't have had known, and challenging himself, that's where the real reward came. But still, that's a huge quirk, to fear traveling and being a travel writer. So, and I'm sure that that holds true for any position. Even being maybe a coach for the 49ers seems like a dream job, but you don't know what he really goes through on a day-to-day basis. It's not easy, the stresses that lead to that. So anyone else?
All right, because I got another really good question here. I'd love to hear you talk about negotiating salary. So how do you do that? Is it a negotiation? Is it you ask questions? It just feels taboo. I don't know how to do it.
The first thing is, in every recruiting engagement, and Bruce can second this, they're going to ask you what your salary is. And it's always good to put a range, but on the left-hand side of that range, the left is the small one and the right is the big one, add 10 or 15 or 20,000, and at the end of the salary range, put a parenthesis that says something about benefits. Okay? Do never, ever, ever lock yourself into a minimum, but don't put a stupid maximum. I mean, a lot of people put the word negotiable in there when they're doing the initial engagement with the recruiter, and ask what Bruce does with the word negotiable. I know what I do with it. But remember, recruiters want to get you hired. They want to get you the job. At the end of the day, that's how they get paid. So the whole salary negotiation thing is you got to be able to feed the kids and pay the rent. And the benefits are important. So don't ever undersell yourself and find yourself in a negotiation where you're going to have to come back and say, I want more. I need more. That is a devastating position to be in any negotiation. In Negotiations 101, you learn about that. But really, when you put that range, make sure that number on the left is a little bit bigger than you can get by on, and make sure you include a benefits proviso in the negotiations. Those are two very important pieces of the whole salary negotiation process. Because remember, it's easier for me to get somebody hired if there's 5 candidates and one only wants 110 and the other 6 want 130 plus, 5 days off and travel benefits and a credit card, guess who they're going to hire, provided they're equal. Yes?
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
How diplomatically find out what the salary guide?
Ask.
For me, it's
So let me
always so
repeat the
low.
question, because it won't show up on the video. So the question is, I've got it. Question is, how do you find out what the salary is for that position?
Well, let's get a real live example. Bruce, pick a job, and how do you post the salary and start that?
Business. I mean, when we post positions here at Berkeley, we post what the job code is, and usually people on campus can figure it out. But to answer your question on that, positions, you've got to. Every job here at Berkeley, the salary is out there because we're a public institution. You know what the salary range is. So in public institutions, you know it. This comes back to LinkedIn. Every job out there in the public sector, private sector, you know what the job salary is going to be. All you have to do is find out someone who's in that role in your network and say, hey, how much you making in San Francisco? How much you making in Dublin? And when it comes back to what Jim said, is you never undersell yourself, but pretty much you could go to Adecco, you can go to Robert Half, you can look up what the job salaries for your specific, go to salary.com.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Go to salary.com. The salaries are out there. But it's a tactful thing because I've had positions in the past that have asked me for, after I've given them my salary requirement, they say, well, can you provide us with the W-2? And, you know, some of them, that's at the offer stage. That's at the salary stage. So you want to be careful about it. But usually, you know, if you know someone that works in that department, someone that works in that company, you can get that G2 or that information on how much that position's paying. And to be honest with you, you can ask for 10 to 20% more than what you're making now. Because the idea in moving forward is to move forward.
I see Donna wants to contribute to this.
I'm going to get slapped here.
No, you're not. So negotiating salaries. At the university, we particularly will tell you what the salary range is with any of our openings. It's, as Bruce said, public information. You know what that is. There is nothing wrong if you're looking externally outside to ask what do you feel the range is for you that you're willing to pay. There have been many positions over the years that I have myself applied to and when asked what is your current salary, that's one thing that you put on an application. What is your current salary? What salary are you willing to take is what really the question is. Is it a combination of salary and benefits? Were you just in a role that, let's say you were making $90,000 a year, the position you're looking at is a potential higher position or a promotable position, and so is it a 10% increase over what you were currently making? So you want to give sort of the feel to the hiring manager of what you feel you want to make in that position and what kind of benefits you would like to see happen as a total package, not just as salary. It is a total package, compensation package. I do think that at the university, however, when you're applying for jobs here, there's a specific range that we know. There's a specific amount of an increase that one can be given working at the university, and we have those constraints. So keep those in mind when you're trying to negotiate. Don't try to negotiate 30% when you know they can only give you 15%, because you'll knock yourself out of the running if you do that. And I just caution us on doing that.
So another.
Maybe just quickly,
Yeah.
maybe watch the Shark Tank. You can see how they negotiate things. So
Watch the Shark Tank.
yeah.
So here are two questions I would like to combine. One is who you know more important than what you know in terms of a path to career path, et cetera? And then, talking about who you know, should you invite your manager or coworkers onto your LinkedIn, into your network? Who would like to take the first shot at answering that? And I think that who you know versus what you know is an important component.
So the last 4 jobs I've gotten have been through who I know versus what I know.
And why is that important?
Because I really networked. It's who turned me on to the positions that were open at those organizations, who I had in my network that I tapped into to find out more about the positions. It wasn't just a posting that I applied to. It's who I knew at that company where the posting was at. And that was because I was well networked. And the more you network yourselves outside of your circle of influence or the circle that you work in today, the more opportunity you have open up for you. So it really is not what you know, it's who you know. And those were 4 positions. 2 of them weren't even open. They weren't even posted. So that's another way that you find out about those openings.
Jim, do you have a point of view on that?
Oh, absolutely.
I knew you would.
At the end of the day, though, no matter how good your network is, if Donna wasn't a good organizational OD person or a good HR person, I don't care how much that guy wanted to bring her on, he wouldn't have done it. So you do have to have some chops in the business that you're in. So So, but she's absolutely right. It is important to keep that network up. And regarding your first question, why not? The last thing you want to have happen is your boss discover that you're out there interviewing. Quick, make them informational interviews. But whatever it may be, a little transparency never hurt. And if you don't have a good relationship with your boss, you might have to call Tamara, I guess, or maybe Vanessa anyway to begin with. But in terms of the network, you have to be able to have the skill. What did I call them? Verbs. You have to have the backup in addition to the network. So, but the network seems to be primary these days because Donna's absolutely right. There's a lot of gigs that are filled without the posting because what's it cost to post a job, Bruce?
$250 to $300.
Oh,
250 to 300. Wait, now what's a serious answer? Do you know?
Post a job on your social network.
On the social network,
I'm thinking
no. Or
of the
internally,
standard
no.
corporate
No cost.
posting. There's a lot of money spent. When LinkedIn did their IPO, and they were talking about the size of the recruitment industry, just the whole size of they estimated in 2010, $85 billion in their IPO statement. So it's people spend a lot of money in this job thing, but look at how Donna saved somebody a ton of money.
Yeah. So, and are you finding that there are more qualified people available for each open position? And is the referral an additional determining factor that sometimes brings somebody up above the crowd?
That makes the difference, I think, when you come to your final candidates. I think if it's a known entity, then do you have? So if all of you out there were hiring executive coaches, you wouldn't hire me. You'd hire one of these two because they're experts at it. You've gotten to know them through an event like this or through your network, and they're that's a given. Now, I do want to say something about the second part of your question about adding your boss to your coworkers. Let's leave Facebook out of this because that's where people tend to get personal, or you have your work Facebook. But LinkedIn is an opportunity for you to shine within your work. You get published, you put your white papers, you put case studies out there. And you can talk about the great things that your team's doing. So I encourage, I've got someone from my team in the audience here, and they're on my LinkedIn. They might not like me that much professionally, but they accepted me. But I think you expand your network, because now that I've got Kim in my LinkedIn, I have access to every single one of her contacts and everything that their contacts say. So go ahead. And you should have nothing to hide on your LinkedIn.
I just wanted to interject this about networking, because we keep saying networking. It's so important to realize that networking is about building relationships. It's about creating a rapport with someone. It's not about just handing someone a card. It's having a conversation, not necessarily always being on the end where you want to get something from them. You also want to give something back. It works two ways. All the jobs that I ever had were because of networking. And not because I handed them a business card, but because I created a relationship. So, for example, I went to a conference in Monterey, met this attorney, we kept in contact. And the way we kept in contact wasn't so much, oh, by the way, I'm looking for a job, can you help me out? It was like, oh, I'm working on such and such case. Do you know about this particular area? Oh, sure. Let me send you this article that I just read, or let me, share this with you, or whatever. And so over a course of months, we're sharing information back and forth. Nothing about a position. Well, fast forward, I get a call saying, you know what, you would be great here. We have an opening. I'm wondering whether or not you would consider coming over here. That's how that happened, but I think it happened because it was a relationship, not just we exchanged business cards at a conference, and then I follow up months later and say, by the way, I'm looking.
Right. So one final question. How do you convince a new employer to give you a chance to prove that you can do something that you've never done before? We've talked a lot about transitioning, reinventing yourself. How do you get somebody to give you that opportunity?
Well,
Daniel.
Well, back to networking, actually. I didn't know anyone before I started this journey, and found 50 jobs, but I got rejected 5,000 times, literally. So it's just finding the right person to take that risk and give you a chance. So there was 4,950 not willing to take the risk on me. So just reaching out, and once you get your foot in the door, and there's different ways of doing that. So there was no wrong way of approaching any employers. I mean, I even heard recently this guy, he wanted to think creatively, sent a shoe in with his resume, symbolizing getting your foot in the door, right? So, of course, he's going to get an opportunity to get himself in face-to-face with these employers, because that's very creative. Maybe they're looking for someone creative. So, but once you get your foot in the door, do your best to market yourself in a positive way, of course, and show what you're capable of and how you would be an asset. So I do definitely think there's flaws in the employment process. There's no doubt about it, because it's very hard to judge somebody just on an interview. It's better to get a trial period. And if you can try to do that, get yourself to showcase your talents and your skills, that's the best way to do it. And that's why we're going back to the question. It's not who you know, or what was it? Yeah, it's not who you know or what you know.
It's not who you know,
Yeah.
but what you know, or
So,
it's not what you know, but who you know.
Right. Yeah. So you'll be able to develop those skills on what you know through those periods. But yeah, it's who you should know or who you know first, and then you can build on what you know as you go. So.
All right. Any other thoughts on how you influence, maybe it's your current boss, how you influence someone to give you a chance to do something where you're not necessarily proven?
A lot of it is about building that relationship first. I'll give you an example. So when I was working at UCSF, I worked in the Center for Gender Equity under an executive director named Amy Levine, and my role was to primarily organize workshops like this, professional development, career development workshops for faculty, students, and staff. So my role was more of a facilitator, program manager type of function. Okay, and there was one, and so I was working in that role for, maybe a year and a half. And over that time, I built up a really great relationship with my manager. And, we supported each other back and forth and grew to trust each other. And then one day, I had to organize a workshop on networking for a women of color networking group that I had developed and expanded. And I couldn't find a speaker. And I went to my boss, my manager, and I said, I don't know what to do. I can't find a speaker, and I've got the room set, I've got the date set, but I need a person. And she looked at me and she said, have you ever thought about you delivering the workshop? And I had never done that before. And I said, oh my God, why would I do that? And she said, because you know how to network. You're always telling me that I need to network better within the university and outside the university. She said, why don't you develop the workshop and you teach it? She was taking a chance on having me deliver this, and it hadn't even occurred to me. Right. So I did it, and it turned out to be the best thing I ever did. But the reason I was able to do that is because I had built trust with her, and she had been able to see me in different examples of different work I had done and realize that I could do the job. So there you go.
Yeah, that's a great message on trust and confidence. So we could go on, couldn't we? Has this been great? I want to thank the panel. And I want to thank you for turning in such great thought-provoking questions. Thank you. Thank you. So we're headed down to lunch and network at lunch. And if anybody, if you talk to anybody, you want to tell them that the panel was interesting, send them back this afternoon. And please fill out your evaluation before you leave the room. There'll be somebody at the back door to collect it. Thanks, everybody.